When the Indian Air Force suffered a crushing defeat over Kashmir, why did it first point its finger at China, thousands of miles away? The Indian media called the 21st century's most humiliating air war conflict. India not only lost $300 million worth of Rafale fighter jets, but also exposed the fatal flaws of its military system. But the response of the authorities in New Delhi is laughable. They claimed that China's satellite system let the Indian army run naked, and even they even accused Beijing of providing real-time battlefield intelligence to Pakistan through Beidou satellites. Behind this logic of blaming the plug-in if you can't beat them, what kind of strategic anxiety and institutional problems are hidden? The Indian Air Force suffered a catastrophic defeat in Operation Sindhudar on May 7, 2025, when the Pakistani military announced that it had shot down 6 Indian warplanes with 0 battle losses, including 3 French Rafale fighters, which are known as Europe's strongest 4.5-generation fighters. This air war completely subverted the international community. On the South Asian military power contrast cognition, India spent $8.7 billion to introduce the 36 Rafale fighters, equipped with Meteor missiles, although the range of 200 kilometers, but in the actual combat by the Pakistani J-10C carrying PL-15E missiles accurately shot down. More ironic is that India's early warning aircraft and fighter jets due to incompatibility of data links leading to the command disconnect, while Pakistan through the Chinese ZDK-03 early warning aircraft to build a 3-dimensional monitoring network as early as 500 kilometers before the takeoff of the Indian Army has locked its dynamics. This systematic combat gap is just like the production line of Hindustan Aeronautics, although stacked with advanced components from France, Russia, Israel and other countries. It has never been able to assemble a truly reliable fighting force. The New Delhi think tanks blame Chinese satellite intervention for the failure, which is essentially a cover-up for the backwardness of their own military system. China's Chongqing satellite company's Jilin 1 constellation has a 0.5-meter resolution and the ability to revisit any location on the globe 36 times a day, a civilian satellite that makes battlefield dynamics invisible, not to mention military satellite systems. But the technical advantage is not equal to direct intervention. Pakistan as early as before the conflict through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor to obtain the Red Flag 9B air defense system, J-10C fighter aircraft, and Li-80 air defense missiles. These equipment after years of integration has formed an independent combat system. In contrast, the Indian Air Force has France, Russia, to many countries such as cutting-edge equipment, but because the data chain is incompatible with each other into the universal brand predicament, Su-30MKI need to voice transmission of early warning aircraft information, Rafale fighters and the ground radar system, there is a delay of seconds. This system of fragmentation leads to the Indian pilots in the electronic interference, as if blind men feeling an elephant. When Indian netizens outside the network called Rafale invincible, the Pakistani pilot Aurangzeb released the black box recording shows, was shot down by the Indian pilots to death, or calling radar Y cannot see the enemy. Deeper route stems from India's lagging military reform. Its proud, cold start tactics in the actual battle exposed fatal flaws. When the Indian group of aircraft across the border, the Pakistani J-10C has been 200 kilometers away through the gallium nitride radar to complete the lock. PL-15E missiles double pulse engine, so that the end of the segment is still maintained, 4 times the speed of sound maneuvering, and the Indian pilots have not received radar alarms until they were shot down. This generation gap is not only reflected in the hardware level. The Indian Air Force accident rate perennial high in the world's first, 2025 the first 4 months on the crash of 3 warplanes, exposing the collapse of the maintenance system and training deficiencies. And Pakistani pilots average annual flight hours of more than 200 hours. In the detection, control, fight, evaluation, closed-loop system practiced in a highly efficient synergistic, the Pakistani pilots fly more than 200 hours a year and have practiced efficient coordination in the closed-loop system of detection, control, fighting and evaluation. India's military-industrial system is even more shocking. 36 Rafale procurement involves Reliance Defense and other interest groups. The unit price soared from $240 million to $300 million, while the company had no experience in the military industry. Russian refurbished second-hand MiG-29 was sold to the price of brand new fighters to India. These warplanes designed in the 80s of the last century after the sticker upgrade, has become the main force of the Indian Air Force. India's dumping logic reflects a deeper strategic dilemma. When the Modi government will Rafale fighter aircraft boasted as J-20 killer, China has deployed in the Western theater of war, without investigation, -7 strategic reconnaissance aircraft, and attack 1 drone group, through the low-cost, high-efficiency unmanned surveillance network to achieve all-weather control of the 3,000-kilometer border line. This asymmetric advantage puts India in a dilemma. If the most advanced warplanes are deployed on the plateau, they need to withstand the engine power decay and maintenance problems. If they rely on traditional manned warplanes, they will be consumed by the drone swarms. More dangerous is that India cut off 80% of Pakistan's agricultural water extreme initiatives. The weaponization of water resources has touched the nuclear red line, the Pakistani side of the 130 nuclear warheads, into a state of operational readiness, so that this local conflict may evolve into a destructive crisis at any time. Ironically, the chain reaction of the air war is reshaping the global arms sales landscape. France's Dassault Aviation has seen its stock plummet as a result of the Rafale defeat. While China's military industry has seen a wave of orders, Egypt and Malaysia have been intensively inspecting the operational performance of the J-10CE and the PL-15E missiles. Silent hunting capability has redefined the rules of air combat. The Indonesian government began to re-examine the $8.1 billion Rafale procurement agreement, the United Arab Emirates to consider canceling the Order of 40. These countries realize, in the era of systematic combat, the performance of a single weapon myth has been broken. China to build the early warning aircraft plus data chain plus missiles Trinity model is creating a new war paradigm. While the United States is fortunate that the F-16 did not participate in the war to save face, but its military supply chain crisis is becoming more and more serious. Lockheed Martin, due to the supply of rare earths, lead to a backlog of orders for the F-35 and China's 6th-generation aircraft program, in stark contrast to the rapid progress of the project. What this conflict ultimately reveals is the profound transformation of modern warfare from a weapons race to a system confrontation. India is still obsessed with waving the universal brand arms purchase stick, but do not know that China has long been in the Western plateau weaving a satellite, drones, data chain, dragnet. France stubbornly adhere to the autonomous defense of the obsolete concept of Rafale fighter in the era of the 5th-generation aircraft into an expensive aerial target. When Indian lawmakers in Congress roared, "China must be responsible for this," the Pakistani Air Force staff is studying a new method of warfare. They planned a J-10CE and will soon arrive in the J-31 stealth fighters mixed to build up the coverage of South Asia's air and space hunting system. This generation-spanning military thinking is perhaps the reality that India should fear the most, but never want to face up to.